us, and we're going to have some fun today, man. We got a lot to get to, a lot to go over. We are broadcasting everywhere, not just on KSHP Radio, but also on the YouTube page, which is PTL Vegas, Twitter, Pushing Limits LV, PTL Vegas on YouTube, as I mentioned, also on the Facebook fan page, PTL Vegas. We're live on TikTok. We're everywhere. And we got a lot to get to and a lot to go over today. We're going to talk a little bit to start about Britney Griner being honored over the weekend, a standing ovation. I have some strong opinions on that might surprise you. So we'll get to that here in a little bit. Marjorie Taylor Greene wants a National Divorce Day. And yes, I would imagine that there would be a lot of men that would want a divorce from her. But we are going to talk about that, a different kind of divorce, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. Get into some sports in hour number 2 as well. There is a local podcast. I don't know, it's some conservative podcast. I never even heard of this guy until recently. But he is like obsessed with me. This show is obsessed with PTL and obsessed with me. We're gonna have a little fun with this. We're gonna get to this a little bit later on in the program. Joining me in studio, as he does every Monday, is the lavishly good-looking Chris Wynn. Chris, what's going on, man?
It's going great, Brian. Good to join you again. It is Monday. Start off the week strong, my friend, as we had a lot of activity, of course, over the weekend that we're going to get a chance to discuss, and as usual, right? It's the first day of the week. Always something to go over.
Absolutely.
And plenty of things to go down. Very eventful weekend here in Las Vegas. We had the Rock and Roll Marathon in town.
Yes.
We had a lot of sports action going down.
We did.
It was a fight weekend. And we kind of previewed it on Mutton Friday. You were out Friday, but we had a chance to
Thank you for
kind of chirp it up a little bit, myself and Jose Vellante and Marquez. So it was great to do the show Friday. And
Thank you.
We'll get it rolling this week as well.
Thank you for filling in for me. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
But by the way, somebody on TikTok told me, because I was trying to get
I don't have enough followers. I guess I can't go live. That's weird.
You got to have 1,000 followers.
Yeah.
I think you can still send me a guest request.
I think I have gone as a guest on.
I don't know.
TikTok
so
before,
for anybody on TikTok right now that can give Chris Wynn some help on how, because he's joined the live feed, so you can see his pretty mug. Please give.
But everybody on the other feeds can see me right now.
Okay,
we're on all over the place.
Fair enough. Okay, good to go. All right, let's get started here, and let's talk a little bit about Britney Griner. So, the Phoenix Mercury star was, I guess, made an appearance. Queen Latifah honored her at the the national NAACP Image Awards. This happened on Saturday night alongside her wife. Now, let me be the first to say this. I'm really happy that Britney Griner is home. I'm not one of those people, one of those far right-wing, crazies out there that think it's just so horrible that Britney Griner is home. And, I'm happy that she's home. She didn't deserve the treatment that she got. And I want to be very clear. I'm not one of those people. I'm LGBTQ friendly, I guess you could say. I support their agenda. I'm also, I've been to Black Lives Matter protests. I'm not one of those idiots that would dislike somebody because they are gay and or because they are black. That's the kind of person I would call a hateful, racist, homophobic person. There are plenty of those out there, sadly. With that being said, here's what it sounded like, Chris. This is when Queen Latifah, unannounced, by the way, I think it was a surprise to a lot of people in the crowd. This is what it sounded like when Queen Latifah introduced Britney Griner. Here it is.
Tonight where she belongs. Our sis, Britney Griner, and her wife.
Okay, so long-standing ovation, you get it. Britney Griner didn't say much. Very brief statements. I'm going to play like a little tidbit of what she said here at the end. Here's what Britney Griner in her own words.
I want to thank everyone, and let's keep fighting to bring home every American still detained overseas. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so nothing wrong with that statement. Here's my issue. Britney Griner put herself in that situation. I'm not saying she deserved to be treated the way she did, because she didn't, right? It's an evil, murderous dictatorship. We all can agree. It's Vladimir Putin. It's Russia. The way they treat people, it's disgusting. But should we be honoring Britney Griner? I mean, she's the one who made the terrible, idiotic, stupid mistake, right? She didn't deserve to be treated that way. She's in Russia. She is the one that was caught. And what I want to hear from Britney, and this is just my personal opinion, while I'm glad she's home, and I agree with the message, we need to, help other Americans get home. I like that. But I want to hear from Britney, hey, listen, I made a mistake. I want to help other people and make sure that they don't make the same mistake that I made. She put this country in a very tough spot. I'm glad that Joe Biden did what he did to bring her home. But now we have this merchant of death that is on the loose. And the reason why the merchant of death is on the loose, this arms dealer, is because of Britney Griner. Let's just call it what it is. I'm glad Joe Biden did what he did. I don't disagree with the trade. I'm not happy with it, but I don't disagree with it either. But should we be giving Britney Griner some sort of standing ovation for making a terrible mistake, Chris? Because I have a problem with that.
All right, so I disagree with some of the characterizations that you've presented here in this situation, right? The fact that she was traded for the merchant of death was not a decision that she made. It was not something that she made. It was not something that she was involved in whatsoever. That was the United States government that made that decision. She had nothing to do with it. Also, you're talking about her, the quote-unquote mistake she made, but you're not using any context as far as what took place, all right? Yes, did she make a mistake as far, if you want to bottom line it? Absolutely she did, okay? Because she had a vape pen in her luggage going to a foreign country in which it's illegal to do so. But the punishment, Brian, never fit the crime. She faced a term of double-digit years in a Russian prison for what took place. Essentially, she was railroaded, and it was a political situation that turned into a celebrity that happened to be American that was detained in a foreign country in a completely ridiculous way. So your characterizations are wrong as far as that goes. Second, as far as her, okay, no, time out.
What characterization is wrong?
You're characterizing it in a way that it's not that's not the context in which it should be. Secondly, we'll finish. Let me finish before you respond. Secondly, all right, you're talking about the should we be honoring her? Okay, first of all, Brian Shapiro, Chris Wynn, Mark Hayes, and we are not honoring her. It's the NAACP that gave her an award, right? But essentially, it's a symbolic thing, right? It's a symbol of her having to face that type of situation in what could have been a very dire situation in which she could have been locked up for years in a Russian prison and overcharged for a crime that she committed. All right, so it's kind of a symbol. It's not necessarily you're making a kind of a bigger deal out of it than I think it is. It's not really a big deal. It's a symbolic type thing that she was given by the NAACP. And it was not given by, the country of the United States of America. It wasn't given, it was, again, it was a symbol. She's not someone who, she faced what, almost a year in a Russian prison, and it was touch and go as to whether or not she was ever going to come home. It could have really been a bad thing. It could have been a thing that could have been tragic. Because she could have, there could have been other circumstances that took place in which she could have either lost her life, which is obviously the worst case scenario. And it's something that we would not wish upon your friend, your sister, your brother, your mother, your father, whatever. So the point I'm trying to make is that, yes, you kind of wanted the bottom line and say, well, she made a mistake, and so why are we celebrating her? That's kind of the approach that you're taking. And that's why I was saying, that's why I had an issue with kind of the way that you portrayed it.
Okay, so let me start from square one here, and let me expand on my opinions. I have never said that Britney Griner deserved to be treated the way she was treated in Russia. Never have, never will. It's horrible. And again, I repeat myself. I'm glad that Britney Griner is home. I'm not a hater. I don't think Britney Griner is this horrible person. In fact, I think she's a very nice person. I
never said any of that, so I don't know why. You're putting out things out there. I never told you
Chris, I never said that you said that. I'm expanding on my opinions. Calm down.
All right.
I understand that Britney Griner had a domestic violence dispute. That was settled. I don't think that, she's not in jail. Okay, she wasn't convicted of a horrible crime there. She had a minor scuffle with one of her loved ones, and it was taken care of, and that's academic to this story. I don't think Britney Griner is this terrible person. With that being said, to this day, since Britney Griner was released publicly, she has not apologized for any wrongdoing or taken any responsibility for the mistake that she made. Again, I am not saying that she deserved to be treated the way she was treated in Russia. You want to put her behind bars for 2 weeks or something, I wouldn't necessarily have had a problem with that. But she hasn't owned anything.
She hasn't made any statements at all as far as remorse for the mistake that she made.
No,
there's no video or audio.
Go ahead and find it.
I don't know. I gotta go.
Okay.
In all fairness, I haven't heard that either.
So let me finish. She has not apologized at all for the position that she put this country in. And what I mean by that is, even though she wasn't a part of the arms deal, this merchant of death would still be behind bars in this country if Britney Griner didn't make the mistake that she made. So my point is very, very simple. Yes, the NAACP honored her. I got to tell you something. There are so many wonderful people in this country that happen to be black that I believe deserve to be honored, that probably were not honored. There's too many of them to honor everybody. But I don't believe Britney.
But that's academic anyway.
But I don't believe that Britney Griner should have been that person that was honored in that moment. Now, that's my personal opinion. There are heroes out there. They could be police officers. They could be firefighters. They could be brave men and women in uniform. They could be politicians, whatever the case may be. They could just be good Samaritans that raise a ton of money for charity, whatever the case may be. I support the NAACP. I am friends with the director of the local NAACP here. She's a wonderful lady, Roxanne McCoy, and I would love to get her opinion on this. But I don't think a woman in Britney Griner, who made a terrible mistake and put this country in a very difficult spot, and I am glad that Joe Biden did what he did. I'm not glad that we have this merchant of death that's out there. I don't want to honor people like that. Britney Griner, great basketball player, right? Phenomenal athlete. She's had a wonderful career. I don't know. You want to honor her at the ESPYs? Okay, fine. But I just find it a little odd and bizarre that the NAACP, with all the heroes out there, decides to honor, and people give her a standing ovation. And why would the people at the NAACP give her a standing ovation? Because she's back home. We're all happy she's home. We're happy she's healthy. But why are we going to give her a standing ovation? It's not a basketball game. Why are we giving her a standing ovation now? I wouldn't give Britney Griner. I would shake her hand and say, hey, I'm really glad you're safe. I'm really glad you're home. But I'm not going to give her some sort of standing ovation. I give a standing ovation to the heroes in this country. Like I said, brave men and women in uniform. You know, people like Chris, who served this country honorably, people who risked their life. What did Britney Griner risk? What did Britney Griner risk in this country? She's a basketball player. She happens to be black. She happens to be gay. That's great. Be a champion for the LGBTQ community. Great. I don't have a problem with that, but I have a serious problem with people giving her a standing ovation. I'm sorry. I just have a problem with that.
Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about the way you're characterizing it, you just used the phrase, you said, oh, the position that Britney Griner put this country in. She didn't put the country in a position. All right, she's someone that got arrested for a crime over in Russia. No, she didn't. She got arrested for a crime over in Russia, and the United States, the Biden administration, made a decision and went through with it regarding, and releasing the merchant of death. And yes, every reasonable person disagrees with him being free. We think the guy's a POS, okay, and has absolutely no business being free. All right. Secondly, all right, what you just talked about as far as the NAACP. Ask yourself this question, Brian. You're saying, I don't agree. The NAACP shouldn't be giving her an award. There's a million other people that should be giving her an award. Ask yourself this question. Sit back, Brian. A little self-awareness here. Sit back, okay? And ask yourself the question. Okay, no, I'm asking you the question right here. I'm asking you right now.
Ask it.
Why did the NAACP give her a award? Why did the NAACP actually recognize her? Yeah. Why do you think they did that?
I will, but I just want to correct on something. The NCAA.
The NAACP.
No,
why do they recognize her?
I get it.
Why do they recognize her, Brian?
The NCAA tournament's come up in 2 weeks. We're going to definitely talk about that.
So what? That's not here.
I just want to make you self-aware. The NCAA tournament's different than the NAACP.
Right. So why did they do it?
So first of all, they didn't give her an award, actually.
Okay. So why did they honor her? Did they honor her? How do you want to describe it?
Sure, I'll answer it. Right. I think to some people out there, because she's black and she's gay, there are a lot of people out there that see her as a champion for the LGBT community and for minorities, and that's
because
fine.
She is.
Hold on. Let me finish answering your question. There's a caveat to it, okay? The reason why Britney Spears was on that stage, let me put it to you this way. If she wasn't in
Britney
Russia...
Griner, not Spears.
Excuse me. Yeah. Britney Spears, different NCAA Britney Spears. The reason why Britney Griner was up there on that stage was not because of her basketball prowess or her sexuality. The reason why she was on that stage.
But wait a minute, time out. You just said that just because she's a member of the LGBT community, and because, and by the way, she is because she's a celebrity. That's why she's being
you got to let me finish.
Whatever it is, honored.
Okay, you got to let me finish.
Talked about. Well, I mean, you're saying things that
let me finish.
Don't make sense.
Okay, well, you're not letting me finish, so I can understand why you would think that, because I didn't finish my point. The reason why she was on that stage is because she was behind bars in Russia for months on end.
Part of it.
She recently got out. She would not be on that stage at that moment with her wife if she was just representing her as the basketball player. She was there getting a standing ovation because she's home. Now, she wouldn't have been there if she didn't make the mistake she made in the first place in Russia. I don't want her there. I didn't want her behind bars. I know there's some idiots out there, right? Very hurtful people.
Or racists.
That want
bigots.
Her. Right.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people. Let's be very clear on that. I wish the best for Britney Griner. I really do. And her wife, and her lovely wife. They seem like very nice people. I don't agree with giving somebody a standing ovation who made, and the reason why I say she put America in a peculiar position, because Joe Biden had to make a trade to get her back. They had to trade somebody that is far more dangerous than Britney Griner. Britney Griner is a pretty harmless person, okay? Joe Biden had to say, all right, we got to get Britney Griner back. We don't really want to release this guy. He's got 8 or 9 more years behind bars, the Merchant of Death. But the only way we're going to get Britney Griner back is if we release the Merchant of Death. That's what I mean by I say she put America in a difficult position. She was guilty, okay? It's not like it was absolutely nothing she did. She made a terrible mistake. She shouldn't have had that on her going through that airport.
We all agree on that. Okay? I don't understand.
She put this country in a... And she hasn't
apologized. You're characterizing it in that way. It's not the right way to characterize it. I would not. There's a lot of us that don't characterize it as if Britney Griner put the country in a bad position. The Biden administration made a decision. It's a separate thing than what you're talking. You're talking about it like it's a direct connection. That Britney Griner, in some way, put the country in a bad position. That's not how it should be characterized. It's not how you should characterize it.
How did she not?
It's not. It's not a thing. You're talking about something that's not a thing. She's not the one. It was the Biden administration. I don't understand why this is so hard to interpret. The Biden administration made a decision. All right. Now, it was based on what they thought was going to be necessary from obviously Vladimir Putin and the Russians. And so this guy, this Merchant of Death, ended up being the trading piece. All right, but you're making it you're taking it a step further, making it about Britney Griner as if she has some culpability in the decision, and she doesn't.
I never said she does.
Yes, you are. You're saying
I never said.
Yeah, what are you talking about? You said that Britney Griner put the country in a bad position.
Okay, calm down. Calm down.
Well, I mean, you're not even.
Okay, calm down for a minute.
You're not even interpreting what I'm talking about right now.
I am, and I disagree with you. Okay, here's why I disagree with you. The reason why I feel the way I feel, the only way Britney Griner could have come home was to make a trade like this. Why was she behind bars in the first place? Because of her actions in Russia that were stupid. Do I think she's a murderer? No. Do I think she's a drug dealer? No. But she did something very stupid. You can call it absent-minded, whatever. But when you're in another country and you make the mistake she made, it's, at a minimum, extremely ignorant and irresponsible. What I want to hear from Britney Spears, and I think what a lot of people, I'm not alone in this opinion. I said Britney Spears again.
Yes,
I'm sorry. Britney Griner. What I want to hear from Britney Griner is, I made a mistake. I want to make sure that other athletes that are traveling to other countries don't make the same mistake that I made. She hasn't owned anything.
Okay, so this is a different situation. This is a different thing that you're talking about. So Brian Shapiro wants to hear some type of remorse from Britney Griner.
Yes.
Look, I get that. That's fine. That's your personal hot take opinion. We get it. Okay. Yes, you feel like she needs to. Look, you and you haven't heard any of that audio. I haven't heard any audio in which she's been remorseful or she's been. Okay, so look, we get it. Okay, but that's just your opinion that you think that she hasn't, apologized to the country enough or whatever. Okay, that's fine. You can have that opinion, but I don't understand how that connects to what the United States government did to get her back.
Sure.
I don't understand what that. By the way, you also made a statement that's not necessarily completely true. You said she was behind bars because of a stupid mistake she made. She was behind bars and she got the sentence she got because she was a political pawn that was railroaded. All right, and she got a multiple-year sentence for something that any idiot American, Brian Shapiro, Chris Wynn, or any Russian, if it would have been charged with the same crime, would have been never even in. It would not have been in prison for. Okay, so what do you mean?
Here's
Okay,
the fine line to that.
Yeah, so it's not just as simple as she made it. She was absent-minded and she left a vape pen in her baggage, and therefore that's the reason why she's in jail. That's not true. Again, it's not true.
By the way, for those of you who want to join this conversation. If you're listening or watching live, you can give us a call, 702-221-7283. Let me give that number again. This is a live radio show. We're not just TikTok live or YouTube live. It's a live radio show, so give us a call. Let me give out that number again. Maybe you agree with Chris. Maybe you agree with me. I don't think Britney Griner deserves any standing ovations, at least not now. The number, 702-221-7283. That's 702-221-SAVE. That's the number. It's very simple. My opinions are very simple on this whole issue. I wish Britney Griner the best. I take issue with the fact that she hasn't really taken responsibility or owned what she has done. I have an issue with that. That's number one. Number two, Joe Biden had to make a very difficult decision. I believe it was the right one, but a very difficult one in releasing a man who is a very dangerous man, the merchant of death, to bring Britney Griner home. The only reason why that trade was made was because of Britney Griner's actions to begin with. Number three, I don't like the argument that a lot of people make, which is this. These WNBA players that are not making enough money, they have to play overseas to make a living. If you're making $100,000 a year and you're working 4 months out of the year, you can take care of yourself just fine leaving in this country. That's nonsense. It's not like Britney Griner was on a $15,000 contract, okay? Britney Griner made a decision to play in Russia. If you're a professional athlete, and you're making a pretty darn good salary, which is well above the average salary of men and women in this country, you didn't have to play in Russia. You made the choice to play in Russia. And when you're going to make a decision like that, you have to understand that the laws are very different in other countries, in some other countries, than they are in the United States of America. You have to be responsible. You have to understand that. I am, and I hate to compare this to Otto Warmbier, because Otto Warmbier was murdered, right? It's a horrible story, that poor kid and his family. My heart aches for them. What did Otto Warmbier do? He took down a poster in North Korea. Now, as an American, I wouldn't want to be anywhere near North Korea, but that's beside the point. He made a mistake, and he was murdered for it, okay? Sadly, there are different rules and laws and regulations in other countries that you have to abide by.
Absolutely.
If you disagree with that, then guess what? Don't go to Russia. Don't go to North Korea, but she made that decision. And when you make a decision like that, you have a responsibility to act accordingly. She did not do so. I don't agree with Russia. Vladimir Putin is an evil, murderous dictator, that entire regime. It's disgusting what's going on in the Ukraine. Don't even get me started there, even though, by the way, some Republicans want Russia to win. But that's another segment where Chris and I will probably agree. Yeah. I just want Britney Griner to apologize. Let's take some phone calls now. 702-221-7283. Why don't we start with Mark on this one? Let's go to Mark. Again, that number, 702-221-7283. Hello, Mark. What's going on?
Hey, brother. You and I spoke about 3 weeks ago about gun topics, and we talked about sensible to restrict, limits on bullets and stuff. So you and I spoken before.
Okay, hold on a second. Repeat again. I didn't hear what you just said. Sorry about that.
So I was saying that we've spoken before on common sense gun reform and how to, limit, bullets on guns, and so making sure that people have access to weapons and stuff. So I'm just letting you know that there's a framework that you understand that I'm a sensible person. Mm-hmm. The reality is the crime that this young lady committed typically is a crime punishment to, I think it's like 10 days in jail in Russia. The reason why she was held as long as she was is because she was a pawn. Sure. She was a pawn in the system, in the political system, to be able to be used by an administration that would be able to come in and get what they wanted in the trade.
Right. I don't disagree with that.
And use it against an administration that was notorious weak in a lot of other issues, and it can be used, as you said before. She's seen as oppression. She's seen as somebody that as a class that could be oppressed, that they could use. And
can I ask you a question, though?
I take care of you.
Let me ask you. I don't disagree with anything you said, by the way, sir. But let me take it a step further then. Knowing that you are a black woman who happens to be gay, in a country like Russia, wouldn't that mean you should be extra more careful to not make any mistakes in knowing that you could be a political pawn? Is that ridiculous to think that?
Not at all. That's part of being responsible, being a professional, and she's a professional athlete.
Right.
So the fact that we're choosing to applaud her for being home, absolutely. But to pass awards because you're able to defeat a system, what system are you really defeating? You're just showing that you're willing to break the law in another country and wait out a turn and become a political pawn. There's no benefit to that.
I hear you. And listen, I agree with everything you say, but do you disagree with me when it comes to the NAACP and the fact that Britney Griner got a standing ovation over the weekend? I support the NAACP. I'm just not one of those people that would give Britney Griner at this point a standing ovation. That's just me.
I say that we have men and women that were put in wars in Vietnam, Afghanistan war, any other wars that we fought over the years that have come home and never been told welcome home. Those people deserve more of a standing ovation than somebody who literally broke a law and then decided to, be part of the system. She could have very easily pulled a John McCain and said, there are other people who have done far lesser things that are being held captive that we can trade for. If she was really going to want to feel deserving of a standing ovation.
That's the point I'm trying to make, sir. And listen, I appreciate you calling in, and we're in agreement, my friend. Thank you so much for calling in. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I mean, this goes to what I just talked about, and I posed the question to you, Brian, and you answered the question. I mean, it's regarding why was she given the recognition or honor or whatever you want to call it that the NAACP gave. The reason why, you gave the reasons why, saying that she's a black woman of prominence, she's someone who happens to be a lesbian, happens to be a member of the LGBTQ community, and she's someone who is looked at, and again, this is a word I keep using, and the reason why, there's a reason why I say this all the time, there's a method to the madness.
Yeah.
There's a reason why the NAACP recognized her, right? It's because she is a symbol. I keep talking about this. She is a symbol. Yeah. All right? This isn't just because she happens to be a WNBA player. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just because she happens to be a lesbian. It wasn't just because she was arrested in Russia and had to sit in a Russian prison for what? Like almost a year or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not there. It's all of this combined. And yes, she's looked at as someone who has faced some type of oppression or suffering or was wrongly done. That's what I'm talking about.
If I think,
and you guys, look, to be honest, you guys are kind of splitting hairs. You and the caller are kind of splitting hairs as to, well, she
I don't have any hair
this
to
amount
split.
of degree or whatever. Yeah, you don't.
Yeah.
You got a nice shiny dome.
I'm bald. All right, let's take some more calls. 702-221-7283. She's a symbol of what not to do in another country. 702-221-7283. I believe we have Carl on the line. Hello, Carl.
Yeah, hey, Chris, Brian. Listen, this whole thing is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. She knows she's going to a autocratic, communistic, dictatorship country. She may be a good basketball player, but her intellectual level must be rather low. To bring, actually, your luggage is going to be searched. To bring actually some kind of drug into a country like this. She wasn't going into a friendly country. She's going into a dictatorship. What did she think was going to happen? She must not have the brains.
Carl, that's my point. Can I point this out, though? Carl, you're a pretty hardcore lefty liberal. Is that fair to say? Is that a fair characterization?
No, I'm moderate. I'm middle of the road.
Carl is actually putting
I am lefty liberal.
Okay, true.
Carl's not.
Carl is putting responsibility, like I am, on a black woman who happens to be gay for making a very stupid mistake.
Her color's got nothing to do with it.
I understand that. I understand that, Carl. But the reason why I'm bringing that up because there's a lot of people on the left that are not wanting to hold her account or responsible for the mistake that she made
not true.
in Russia. There are some, not all.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Carl and Brian, let me speak to this, okay? Because Carl just brought this up about being stupid, right? Absolutely, this could be a case, and this is my personal opinion, in which she was absent-minded and maybe didn't even pay attention and maybe is a bit aloof, okay, when it comes to this type of situation because of what she is. What is she? She's a pro basketball player. She might have believed, look, I'm trying to get into Britney Griner's head, but she might have thought, oh, you know what? Even if I run into any type of legal situation in Russia, My owner, who happens to be a very influential Russian, right, oligarch, who happens to, I believe, have a personal relationship with Vladimir Putin, or in some way has a relationship with the Russian government, I may have options as far as my owner taking care of me in Russia. So, Carl and Brian, it might be a situation like that where she thought she had a little backing, right, from her team in Russia. If anything happened to take place, obviously what took place is she had a vape pen in her bag, which is illegal.
Brian was right. The NAACP should not have given her a huge thing where she's congratulated and all. They should have said, it was very nice of you.
I got an idea
back.
for you, Carl. How about this? How about this? How about the Terry Nichols family that in their pain and suffering are trying to get action done when it comes to police brutality? Those are the type of people that I want standing ovations, not a professional athlete who goes to another country who does something really dumb and stupid, and now we have an arms dealer on the loose. Carl, thank you so much for your call, my friend. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Carl.
Sure, you got it.
And by the way, Brian, I'm sure the NAACP has a lot of people that they honor and awards that they give to other people, so let's not portray this as if she's the only one that's getting recognized by the NAACP.
Okay,
That's
well,
not really
again,
true.
okay. Well, I end by saying this. Me and Chris, we obviously disagree on this. I think there's a lot of people out there that are more worthy of a standing ovation these days than Britney Griner. I respect the fact that she's had a heck of a career. She's a champion for the LGBTQ community. I respect that a great deal as well. But she made a terrible mistake. And even if we can find a quote where she could say, "Oh, you know, I'm really sorry."
Oh yeah, by the way, yes. Breaking news, Mr. Shapiro. That quote has been found.
Okay,
so
well, I would like to
it
see
kind of
that
harpoons
quote, and
a lot of what your discussion's about.
So I haven't seen that quote. Okay. I will gladly take a look at it, and I will read it on the air. But I will say this: I want to know if she took absolute.
Why does there have to be a but? You can just point out that she actually did apologize.
Hey guys, I'm sorry. I want to know what she said. I want to know if she owned what she did, and understands that she put the Biden administration in a tough spot, and this country.
You're kind of hedging yourself right now here. That's
not hedging myself.
You're kind of trying to hedge yourself, Shap. He is.
No, I'm not. I said the same thing.
Sounds like you're hedging.
I said the same thing 15 minutes ago. Yeah. I didn't just say, "Oh, I wonder if she said she's sorry." She should say she's sorry. I also said 15 minutes ago, I want her to own what she did and try to help other athletes from not making the same mistake that she did. If she can do that, then I will give her a standing ovation, but I know she hasn't done that yet. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. Oh, Chris, we are going to have some fun when we come back because there's a local podcast in town with about...
Is there?
Yeah, there is. I think it's called the most listened to conservative podcast in the world or something. It should be called the least listened to, but anyway, we'll get to that. There are some people in this town that are obsessed with me. Sadly, they're usually middle-aged men that live in their mom's basement. This is a very similar situation. There's a local podcast. Seriously, this guy does this podcast. Every single podcast, like half of it is dedicated to me and my show. And by the way,
really?
He talks about you as well.
No!
Yeah, he talks about you as well.
Check this out.
All right, so we're going to have a little fun when we get back, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. Again, no appointment needed, but if you want to call in advance, please do so. Again, that number is 702-248-0554. See, Chris, that's what we call an advertiser. It's an advertiser in the radio.
How do you make, Brian? You do this show for free? I thought that's right. You just come in here. It's pro bono work, my friend. Right?
Hey, how many advertisers do you think that guy has? He must have a plethora of advertisers with his 14 listeners, right?
Plethora might not be a good word for the Chris Dyer podcast.
He has one advertiser per listener. That's what I think he has. So wait, what? No, he probably doesn't have any advertisers. Do you think he has any?
I have no idea.
How could you have an advertiser?
I'm going to check it out, though.
I don't know. Anyway. I think we have somebody on the line. Let me give out the number, 702-221-7283. We're going to talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene. She wants a national divorce, Chris. I'll get to that. I think we got some callers on the line. Again, that number, 702-221-7283. Let's go to Al. Al, what's going on, man?
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. I listen to your show. I do consider it, even though we're on opposite sides or we're not on the same sides of political spectrum, or I'm more on the Republican side, I do consider you a good analyst, or you talk about the show, a good radio talk show host. You got good topics.
Wait, is this Chris Dyer? Chris, is that you? I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Al, you're giving him compliments. Don't swell Brian Shapiro's head up, man.
Why would I listen to a show that I don't like? Come on, man.
Exactly.
I got better things to do. So the thing is that Personally, though, I think you gave the guy too much time because there's a lot of other topics that are important to talk about.
I probably did.
And let me just say one thing about the stolen election and to the Republican people out there. You know, I heard something this weekend from Bill O'Reilly, which is one of the more conservative guys. He has a new show called The No
Sexual
Spin News.
Predator. That should be the name of his new show.
Yeah, well, yeah, that guy. Well, that, you know, you always, once you get the bad mark, they get you off the radio. So you know, well, whatever. But anyhow, so he said, and that was my only doubt. If I ever were going to go on the show, this was the point that I was going to hammer, and I got shot down this weekend. And I want to share that with you guys. He said that in the Pennsylvania election, Jim Jordan was saying that the Pennsylvania people bypassed the Constitution by going over there and changing the election laws without talking to the legislation. And I thought he had a solid point. I was like, well, with Jim Jordan all the way. And it turns out that Bill O'Reilly said that when the Trump administration couldn't come up with evidence and the judges were willing to listen, that's when he knew it was over. And so I think Republicans, for everybody, are accepting that these are the new rules, that maybe we didn't have the evidence, that maybe, you know, we have to accept that Biden
maybe
won.
You think maybe they didn't have the evidence?
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, I don't know how, because I don't have all the evidence of all the states. That's all. But I know that in Nevada, they changed the rules. We didn't like it, but that's the way it works. You know,
they changed the rules because of COVID, though, Al. There was a reason why there were a lot of rules changed with respect to the 2020 election. It was because of COVID-19, right? It was because of the pandemic. It wasn't anything to benefit Democrats or benefit Republicans. That wasn't a thing. And by the way, I have to make a quick point. You brought up Jim Jordan and his comments and his feelings towards the election in Pennsylvania. Let me tell you something, my friend, all right? I don't give any credence whatsoever to anything that Jim Jordan has to say, an Ohio congressman, with respect to the legal situation in Pennsylvania or any other state for that matter when it came to the 2020 election. It's completely ridiculous.
This is
No, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, you got a good point. I mean, you guys are more into the whole thing. I just thought I'd throw that out there, you know, for those that, you know, because that was the only... Yeah. All I had was as evidence, you know, and I would think that the Democrats are going to keep that because they have the majority right now.
Yeah.
They could call a bill to reverse it. They're not going to do it. They actually want to have, from what I'm hearing, voting polls in jail cells.
Hey, Al, can you get me Mike McDonald in studio, please?
Al, you got a connection to Big Michael McDonald?
Can you get me Sigal Chattah in studio, please? I want to get the nut jobs in your party to come on my show.
Well, I'll talk to them and I'll let them know next time I see him.
Tell Mike McDonald I won't seize his cell phone. I promise.
Okay. I'll see. We're going to be having some big events over in Henderson.
Events so that I'm not welcome to. They'll kick me out of those events.
We're having the Lincoln Douglas event, and then we're having Marquis Dillon or something, the one that challenged.
You know what? Let me tell you something, my friend. Nothing sounds more fun to me than be hanging out with a bunch of middle-aged Republicans in Clark County.
Yeah, well, I'm a middle-aged. I'm actually a senior citizen now.
I'm just kidding.
Al, word on the street is that Jesse Law is just chomping at the bit to jump on Pushing the Limits and do an interview with Brian Shapiro. That's just.
Oh, is that right?
That's a rumor. Hey, Al, that's a rumor that's out there. I don't want to keep perpetuating it, but it could be out there, guys. Could be.
Hey, Al, it's good to hear from you.
I'll go find out and see what's up.
It's good to hear from you, Al. I'm just joking, my friend. You're a nice guy, and I appreciate you calling in. Thank you, Al.
All right, not a problem.
Thank you. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. So, there are some people on the chat that are saying, Democrats are a joke, and then when I go into specific and to ask them, why are Democrats a joke? They just say Joe Biden's in the bunker. But you guys are welcome to call in 702-221-7283. So Marjorie Taylor Greene seems to be in the news for all the wrong reasons. Three-toe Marjorie made some statements on Twitter saying that she basically wants a new idea for America to separate by red states and blue states, calling it a national divorce, which is, by the way, dumb, and it is would be harmless to this country. But in my personal opinion, it's a window into a very dangerous vision, within the Republican Party. It's a dictator-type vision. Am I wrong?
Absolutely. But let me point out something very simple, Brian. When you hear the first thing that I heard when this story went down, Marjorie Taylor Greene, what does she happen to be a representative? What state does she happen to represent, Brian?
She represents the state of buffoons, apparently. Yeah.
No, but seriously, what state does she represent?
She doesn't represent this state. I know that.
So she represents the state of Georgia, right? She's a House of Representatives representative from the state of Georgia. What party are the senators, the 2 senators from her state? What party are they in?
Well, obviously.
They're Democrats.
Obviously,
so, look,
yeah.
fundamentally, yes, we understand that there are red and blue states from a perspective that, yes, they vote majority one way or vote majority another when it comes to that state. So that's why we call it a red or blue state. But what she's proposing is something that can't even feasibly be done. It can't even be done at all. Right. And I'm going to use a perfect example of a state right next to us in California. There are millions upon millions of Republicans in the state of California. Yes, it is a blue state from a perspective of voting, but you're not going to be separating states into red and blue states in any way, shape, or form. It, again, is an ignorant and imbecilic comment that she has made.
Do you think, Chris,
that makes no sense?
Do you think, Chris, that Marjorie Taylor Greene said this because she actually believes it, or she just wants to make headlines and say something crazy?
I think that she is a bigot. I think that she has all kinds of ideas in her head that are absolutely moronic and imbecilic, and I think that she is someone that, and I'm going to say this fundamentally, look, she has no business running a hot dog cart on the Las Vegas Strip, much less making any determinations or being a lawmaker in Washington, D.C. This is kind of the problem that I have with the United States government right now as a whole. And look, it's going to sound like I'm grouping in Democrats and Republicans, decent ones that are Republicans and Democrats that can actually get things done and that are actually sound-minded and rational and reasonable. But when you have people like this who have a platform like Marjorie Taylor Greene does, let's be honest, I mean, she's essentially one of the more talked about Republicans in the country right now. Right? It doesn't matter if she says things that are insane or crazy or bigoted or racist or Islamophobic or whatever. She has a voice. This is a major problem that we have in American politics today, is people like this who are given a forum and who are given some type of credibility or some type of authority, right? Power, for example, in the United States government that is so disheartening to a lot of us Americans out there. And look, Brian, I don't talk about this enough, but you know, it's people like this that almost make me want to get into politics.
Well, I agree. Let's go there.
I feel I'd be much more qualified.
I agree. When Green
to do a better job.
When Green was asked to go into further detail about this divorce, she said she thought the two sides of American politics had reached the point of irreconcilable differences on a variety of topics. Well, I agree with her. Let's talk about some of these topics. Mm-hmm. When we talk about, I'm just going to name a few, and you could add some more. But talk about gun control. Democrats for decades have been wanting to put proper gun legislation in place, banning assault weapons, red flag laws. Republicans' only answer to all the gun violence in this country seems to be more guns are the answer, and let's make it easier for people to get guns. If you don't believe me, look at the policies Abbott just put in place in Texas. So that's number one. Number two, abortion. The overwhelming majority of people in this country, Republicans and Democrats, are not pro-abortion. They're pro in a woman's right to choose.
Exactly.
But yet, these Republicans in office want to push forward, and now there's this new bill that might be pushed forward throughout the country. It's a big judgment that's going to be made. I believe it could be made today about an abortion pill that might be banned.
And they want to portray us as being pro-abortion instead of being pro-choice, which is not true. Yeah,
agree. So that's number two, Chris. Mm-hmm. Number three, healthcare. Democrats complain about Obamacare. They have for years and years, including during the Trump administration. Yet they have no replacement plan for it. None. Zero. And then, we talk about taxes. In the history of this country, Republicans have given tax breaks to the rich. Donald Trump did it. Republicans continue to do it and push that forward while you're not getting the tax breaks for the poor and the middle class. Gay rights, LGBTQ rights. As a whole, we see in general, many people that are on the right call themselves good Christians, right? Jesus people, good Christians. When so many of these policymakers think it's a sin to be gay. The Mike Pences of the world, who will never be okay with gay marriage, will never be okay with a man and a man marrying each other, or a woman and a woman marrying one another. The Democrats are not perfect, and I would never say that. And I don't agree with Joe Biden when it comes to every policy, and I can give you perfect examples of that as well. Mm-hmm. But fundamentally speaking, Marjorie Taylor Greene is right. There are irreconcilable differences, what she said. Gun control, health care, minorities, rights, when it comes to gay rights. So she's absolutely right. And you want to know why? Republicans, 7 of the last 8 presidential elections have lost the popular vote for these reasons that I just talked about, but they're too stupid to even understand that. The overwhelming majority of Americans disagree with Republicans and the policies that they want to put forward or they have put forward.
And I also put forth that they've lost the popular vote because they're just flat out, the numbers aren't there for MAGA and for Republicans. There are just more Democrats or independents that lean left, right, or independents that will vote left in a situation like the 2020 election with Donald Trump against Joe Biden. Yep. So that's why they've lost the popular vote over the 7 out of the 8 last elections. A couple more things also, Brian, I want to add to that list you just pointed out.
Yep.
Immigration, right? There's obviously differences between Democrats and Republicans with respect to immigration. Absolutely differences when it comes to foreign policy. We have a situation, obviously, the war in Ukraine going down. You have Republicans that want their cake and eat it too. They want to sit back and they want to blast Joe Biden and say he's pro-China this and pro-China that. And yet at the same time, there's Republicans out there openly rooting for a murderous dictator tyrant like Vladimir Putin to not just win the election, but they're also blasting and hammering Vladimir Zelensky in Ukraine as well, too. So they want to make it portray it like, oh, yeah, Joe Biden's this commie this and commie that, and he's on China, and he's owned by China, and China this and China that. But at the same time, they want to, they're gonna sit over here and wax poetic about Vladimir Putin in Russia. So it's completely, again, the word gets brought up, hypocrisy when it comes to Republicans on foreign policy as well, too.
Let's not even forget about a story that came out before we go to break, Chris, about the Dominion voting machines in Fox News. I had one Fox News show over the weekend that said he's not allowed to talk about the Dominion voting machine situation, but we were learning in documents that just about everybody at Fox News knew it was a bunch of baloney and crap, this Dominion voting machine, but they still, as calling themselves a credible news organization, which is the opposite of what a credible news organization should do. Let me explain. They knew that this Dominion voting machine, that somehow it was for Democrats and they cheated with these Dominion voting machines. They knew it was a lie. Tucker Carlson knew it was a lie, and many other hosts at Fox News knew it was a lie. Yet they still put lies out there on Fox News. These anchors and these show hosts knowing, and the network knowing that this was a lie. The election lies were absolutely, that's what they were. They were lies, and this Dominion voting machine thing was a lie. Fox News is going to lose this lawsuit, and the reason why they're going to lose it is because there is evidence. This isn't an opinion. You're not reporting on something that Donald Trump says. For example, if Donald Trump said the Dominion voting machines, blah, 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 you can report on what Donald Trump said. There's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
But you had opinion hosts that were pushing a false narrative, a lie, and they knew it was a lie, that these Dominion voting machines were not, were not fair and they were for the Democrats. I think they are going to lose. And then people watch Fox News like it's some sort of credible news source. I mean, this is an embarrassment to Fox News.
Well, the thing is with Fox News, look, we can break it. It would take a 10-hour show to break down the media and Fox News and kind of the transformation that's taken place in the matter of the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years with respect to that. But look, there's a reason why Fox News put that out there, right, Brian? It's because it's red meat for their fan base, right? Those people that watch Fox News, most of you, not all of you, but most of you that watch Fox News love that stuff. Yeah. They love all this stuff about bashing Democrats or in some way putting forth this idea that the 2020 election was rigged for Democrats and for Joe Biden. They eat that up. It is absolutely gold to those viewers. So that's why Fox News put that. I'm not excusing it. I'm not making, I'm not sitting back here making excuses for Fox News. Right. I'm just giving the reason why that was actually put out there.
And I'm going to give out the number because there are some people who think that I'm paid for or I'm a coward. We got all these statements.
What are you paid for? Who are you paid for,
Let me be very clear. These are my opinions. These are Chris's opinions. We're not getting paid to say things, okay? And if you disagree with me and you think the Dominion voting machines somehow put the election towards Joe Biden, or you think I'm being paid for, or you disagree with me, give us a call. I'm going to give out the number. 702-221-7283. I'll take your call. I'll give you your chance. Again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the show, 702-221-7283. 702-221-7283. That's 221-7283, 702-221-SAVE. If you want to be a part of the show and you think I'm delusional or we're liberals or whatever the case may be, then I'll take your call. All right, why don't we go to line 3 first, Lauren, if that's okay. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Hi, Lauren. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
A couple of things. I think that one way that we could alleviate all these different little groups that we have in our country is just view it like this. If you're an American citizen, you're entitled to all the rights as an American citizen. You don't need special rights. And I think that that's what needs to be done. I think that that would take care of a lot of mistrust of, we're making these people, for lack of a better term, sacred cows, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying they're actually cows, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to get away from that. If you're a citizen of this country, we know what rights we're entitled to, and that's the way it should be. Now, I'm in an interracial marriage, and I know that they passed special things for that decades ago, and that should have never had to have happened. In my opinion, and that's the main thing that my main point is we don't need special laws for everybody. If you kill somebody, you're a murderer.
So, Lauren, when you talk about this, what do you mean by special rights as opposed to just your ordinary American rights that you normally would have? What are you talking about?
Okay, I mean, I just gave the example.
You gave one example about interracial marriage, right? Which I don't know. There's not really laws that prevent it at this point,
not
right?
This
so
country,
it's not.
no.
Yeah. So I don't know. So, but what other things are you talking about?
If you recall recently, when there was the right or the Right to Marriage Act or whatever it was,
right,
and they were complaining about people that they were going to take the rights away from the LGBT community, and they were going to do it to people that were involved in interracial marriages, and I mean, to me, which is totally ridiculous. But
well, we agree. Yeah.
Anyway.
No, what you're talking about is it was Democrats that are putting this out there, and I'll say this because I'm a Democrat. There were Democrats saying that the Republicans, particularly I believe Clarence Thomas, right, the Supreme Court justice would be it would lead. The idea was that it would lead to people infringing on interracial marriage because of the marriage which was about the LGBTQ community.
Lauren, I got
them having the right to
Lauren,
marry.
I got to get to some other calls, my friend, but it is always good to hear from you, and look forward to talking to you again soon. Okay.
Thank you, Lauren.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Lauren. 702-221-7283. I think we have a retired vet that is waiting on the line. I think his name is Steve. Steve, thank you for your service, and thank you for calling in. What's on your mind?
Yeah, as a retired combat vet with 22 years and five combat deployments, I'm a little concerned. I'm a little concerned with the situation in Taiwan. We're now replacing troops in there. I mean, we don't have an alliance like we do with Japan or South Korea, first of all. And I'm a little concerned with the executive branch overreaching the Constitution, i.e., I call it as a military. If you look at Webster's dictionary, what an insurrection is, it's going in and overthrowing, a leader. We did that in Libya, but Obama did that without one congressional vote. And to me, that's a violation of the War Powers Act.
Can I ask you a question? May I ask you a question respectfully? Since you brought up the word insurrection, was January 6th an insurrection?
If it was, then when they breached the White House in June of that year, when they burned the church, then that too was an insurrection. When 50 Secret Service agents were injured, and the president had to go to the basement, that was an insurrection too, my friend.
When did that happen? What are you talking about? When did the president have to go to the basement? When?
June of that year. You can Google it, look it up.
What year?
2021.
Wait,
Hold
what?
on.
Wait,
Hold on.
we live in the same country you do.
hold
I
on.
don't remember any of it. What are you talking
2021,
about?
you're telling me Joe Biden had to go to the basement and 50 people broke into
No,
the White House?
wasn't Biden. Do you remember when BLM burned the church across from the
Joe
White House?
Wait, time out. Caller. Joe Biden was the president of the United States in 2021.
No, wasn't 2021. Excuse me, I got the years wrong. Do you remember when they burned the church?
So you're saying when Donald Trump was president, he had to go to the basement? Is that what you're trying to say? In the basement of the church?
No, in the basement of the White House. Get your fucking facts together, you fucking faggot.
All right,
okay.
so look.
So obviously
now time out. He's swearing at us because the guy doesn't even know what year he's in. He doesn't even know what year he's talking. Hey, guy, all right? Thank you for your service, by the way, as a fellow veteran, okay, as a fellow U.S. Army veteran. Thank you for your service. But get your dates right and get your story straight. And by the way, Brian and I live in the same country you do, all right? If there was some type of breach of the chapel in the White House where the President of the United States, Donald Trump at the time, apparently, because, by the way, you didn't even tell us what year it was that this happened, this would have been a major story, and the perpetrators of that event
here's the thing.
would have been held accountable.
There's a reason
right?
why I asked
So
that
what is he
question.
talking about?
As soon as this guy called in and started criticizing Obama for some sort of insurrection, that's the same guy. I knew this was going to go this way, that phone call. Because obviously he's a MAGA supporter, and he defends January 6th.
Okay.
So notice when I asked him, is January 6th an insurrection?
He shifted to something
else. He shifts and he won't answer the question.
Yeah.
That's what these MAGAs do. And by the way, when a MAGA can't form and put sentences and facts together, what do? They swear at us. It happens every show because they can't form an opinion with facts to back up their opinion. So they swear and get your blanking facts together. Meanwhile, this guy is saying that there was an insurrection in the White House in 2021,
and I'm like,
Joe Biden was in the basement. Sir, I don't know what medication you're on today. I appreciate your service to this country, but if there's anybody that can't get their effing facts straight, it's you, not us. Spell the word fact and then call us back when you can have an intellectual conversation without swearing at us, with all due respect.
And you can't drop F-bombs. It's a live radio show. It's not a podcast where anything
that's what
goes.
These MAGAs do.
You can't just start dropping F-bombs and left and right, kid.
Every day I get a MAGA
Calm
that
down.
swears at me every day because I embarrass them, and this is what we get from it.
Yeah.
702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Dr. Do we have a doctor on the line? No. Okay. I thought we did. I thought we did. 702-221-7283, the number to call. I find it so interesting. Where would somebody like that get information like that there was an insurrection in the White House?
I think there's some outlets out there. They start with like OAN and Newsmax and what is the other one? The Right Wing America, whatever. They have the War Room with our boy who convicted criminal and got pardoned by the former president.
Breaking news. I never knew that.
I didn't know that Donald Trump was making a run to the bunker underneath the chapel at the White House because of an insurrection by
I guess Trump was in the bunker,
a bunch of
not
Democrats.
Joe Biden. It was Trump that was in the bunker, not Joe Biden. By the way, there was no insurrection at the White House. You have absolutely no idea what you were talking about. Nobody broke into the White House. There was several years back, there was a guy that went over the gate and he was tackled.
And I'm sure there's been a number of probably, and look, I don't want to get a visit from the Secret Service here, but there probably was attempts on President Trump's life when he was in office that we don't know about, and that took place. Right. But don't put it out there, sir, here on PTL Live that you are privy to some information that Brian and I don't know with respect to something like
Chris,
that.
Here's the sad thing about this, right? And I'm assuming this guy is telling the truth. Here's a guy who I would assume risked his life, like you, to serve this nation.
No, he risked more because I was not someone who was in combat.
My point is, here's a guy that risks his life for this country, and then he just spews lies, and I don't even think he knows it. I don't know where.
Well, look, it's his political beliefs, and I'm not going to deprive anybody.
It's not a
Nobody
political
should
belief
be
to say that there was.
Well, he has. Okay, so Brian, he has his political viewpoints that are absolutely, obviously right wing. He might be a MAGA guy, I don't know,
I'm sure
but he's definitely on the right, and
it's
he has
okay
some animosity towards Democrats.
So listen,
and Joe
it's
Biden.
okay to have political beliefs. As I say on this show all the time, you're entitled to your own opinions. You're not entitled to your own facts.
Yeah.
When you make an ignorant claim that there was an insurrection at the White House, you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about, and you can't spell the word fact. If you're going to call into this show, you can have differences of opinions. Like an opinion would be, Joe Biden's a terrible president. I'll give you reasons why I feel that way. Or, Donald Trump is a great president. I'll give you some policies that worked and why I think he was. That's an opinion.
Yeah.
That's fine. We can have a conversation about that. But when you make a statement like, Donald Trump won the election in a landslide in 2020, or January 6th wasn't an insurrection, but in 2021 there was an insurrection in the White House, then I'm not going to give you the time of day on this show, and you're just going to be embarrassed. And it's sad that somebody that serves this country honorably has so much misinformation. And that's the dangers of Fox News, going back to what I said earlier. Fox News, OAN, and Newsmax. They spew right-wing propaganda. They're right-wing echo chambers. That's all they do. And if you watch that day in and day out, you start to believe it. And I even know some people that are somewhat intelligent that believe some of that stuff. And it's dangerous, and it's bad for the country.
It's absolutely indicative, right, Brian, of you hear something over and over and over and over again. Like you just said, you start to believe it. You actually think it's true, and that's something that's very disheartening for us folks.
It is. So anyway, going back to Marjorie Taylor Greene, we hope she gets her divorce, and we'll take a break. But I want to switch topics a little quickly, Chris, because we are. You mentioned the NCAA. I know you meant to say NAACP, but that's okay. We all misspeak. I said Britney Spears instead of Britney Griner about 5 times. I want to talk a little NCAA basketball when we come back because we got March Madness right around the corner. UNLV basketball, the Mountain West Conference.
Running Rebels pulled out a win against the Falcons on Friday.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about that. People were talking about how it was such a courageous win. And we got spring training this weekend in Vegas as well. We'll get to that. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KS.